All right, you guys, today on the podcast, I have with me Colleen Nelson, who is a trauma therapist. And what I love about you is not only are you a trauma therapist, but you also specialize in relationships, which relationships, yes, I think most people associate that to be like love and relationship, but we all have relationships.
Yeah.
So I'm super pumped to talk to you because we're going to talk about ghosting today. And what does it mean about us?
Oh,
And I shared with you before that so many of the people that are listening to this podcast are, they're kind of all over the map, but they're like, some are still dating and frustrated and can't figure out why it is that they do this pattern of like, I keep swiping, I meet with someone, we talk all the time, then we go on the date, then they ghost me. So then I just rinse and repeat and I do it all over again.
yeah.
There's other people who in a way are like addicted to dating, right? And who don't want to take time off because they're just like, oh my God, where's the one? Are they coming? And then there's those that are like, I really need to take a pause. I really need to get crystal clear on what my self-worth is, why I'm repeating this pattern of continuing to look for people outside of myself to make me feel good enough. And then we have some graduates of the good old Let Love In program who are just soaring in their self-love and relationships and running into roadblocks and bumping into stuff and handling it with a little bit more ease and delicacy. So that's sort of who we're talking to today. But I thought it would be so cool to help understand, trauma is something that I've been talking more and more about on the podcast as I learn about my own trauma and how it's impacting me. But talk to me a little bit about what does ghosting mean about us? Like if we're the ones who do it, but then also what if we get ghosted? There's stories we tell ourselves. I'd love for you to take both lens of that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, ghosting is a tough topic because we like to pretend it doesn't affect us, but it does every single time, right? And even if you're the one that ghosts, like I do think there's this lingering feeling of lack of closure that happens as well. And then you just kind of always have that person or that experience in the back of your mind kind of feeding in to your present reality. So it's very real and it's also very new, right? Let's
Yes.
remember that. Okay. So I'm gonna be like a historian for a minute, like psychological historian. Okay. So for the sake of today, I believe in evolution. I'm just gonna say that out loud, okay? Because we're talking about evolution here for a half a second. Our brain, our nervous system, has not evolved as fast as our environment has. Okay, so it's really important to understand that a mere like 200 years ago, our nervous system was primed for like making sure we could find food, that the like coyotes were not going to come eat us, that we were going to be warm in the winter. Like it was very simplistic. And in just a short time, now we're navigating like social media and online threats and like things that are incomprehensible to our nervous system. Okay, so this is where those stories come in. This is where our brain is trying to catch our body up. It's like, hey, I know you feel this. Let me explain it to you. And we spin and spin and spin and spin and spin, trying to get our body to understand why we feel the way we do. Right. So that's like the basis here. Like when we talk about what is going on with our brains and just the influx of, I think, disruption that we feel to our day-to-day life, to our relationships, to the way that we work, to the way that we are with our families. We live in a completely different environment than even our parents and our grandparents did.
Mm-hmm.
So that's setting the stage for the conversation.
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect
Uh,
sense. It goes back really quickly to something you said
yeah,
when we first got started about there's a lot of good-hearted people out here in the world who feel stuck.
yes,
And so I think,
yes,
and they don't want to feel stuck. And so
yes,
they just keep repeating the same patterns again and again and again. So I think by you explaining how we have evolved as a
yeah.
society, as a human, and how the leading cause of depression, I feel like these days is the social
Yeah.
media.
The social media.
Like, I mean, yeah, so that's really helpful to hear that. Okay, so continue. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think that makes
No, I love the dialogue. And I think it's important. Interrupt me anytime.
okay.
I could talk for days on this. Okay, so let's say that you are the one who is ghosting.
Mm,
Okay, let's say that that's a pattern you have. let's talk about how that shows up first and foremost. Okay. So that shows up if you are the one who's ghosting, where you're in a job and you've become uncomfortable, potentially challenged in the job in a way that you didn't expect. Maybe the job is really not the right fit, or it's creating a disruption in your day to day environment. And in order to either A, fix the job or leave the job, you have to have a conversation with an authority figure. And your nervous system is like, not safe, no thanks. Much easier for me to just literally block everything and everybody and not ever show up at that job again. I don't know if any of you have done that. I for sure have done no call, no show in my younger years, like 100%. And it feels awful. I still think about it today. Like I said, if you ghost someone, it carries with you. So it's very much a conflict avoidant response, and it's very much tied to your feeling of safety in using your voice. And so it pulls back to these earlier experiences. And I usually think it's around like 3, 4, and 5. So we don't always have these memories. So it can be frustrating and hard because we're like, but I don't remember anything. It's okay, you don't need to. Your body does. When we show up in relationship with somebody, right? When we go on a date with them for a couple of days or a week, or we're communicating, what happens with online dating is we actually overshare and we let people in way sooner than when they earned it. So we're texting them like our day-to-day life. We're sending them pictures of what's going on in our world. Like we're doing things and we haven't even met them yet, or we've met them one time. Like this is a stranger that we are like letting into our lives because of the platform that's been created and this kind of agreement we have with this online dating world. And so this very kind of this person you don't really know and don't quite trust yet is now very close to you. So when you go on a date or you have a couple dates and you realize that it's just not the right match, or maybe they are really good for you, but you're not really ready for that type of investment in you, or that type of person that's going to call you to your own attention. And again, the thing that needs to happen is that hard conversation with the person and with yourself, and setting a boundary. And your internal nervous system is like, that is dangerous, right? I don't trust this person. They're not safe. I can't do this. Keep yourself safe and ghost.
So true. I was just thinking back to a client called today for her private session, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I went on this date. Really great guy, but I don't think I'm into him." Okay, really great guy. I'm not that into him. Okay, tell me why. So she starts telling me all the reasons that he's really great, actually. But she's like, I just don't think I'm going to go out with him again. And she started talking. I forget why I started telling you this story. You just said something that like sparked my memory of it. She said, I'm like, I don't want to date him. But then there were all these really good reasons. Oh, that's why. It was because there was a fear of intimacy. So I said to her, she goes, yeah, I mean, I've already gone out with him once and he hasn't, it's been 2 days. He hasn't texted me back. We are seeing each other in a couple of days, but like, my love language is words of affirmation. Like, I want him to tell me he had a great time on the date. And I said, he did. He asked you out again. And she go, and you have plans to see him in 2 days. And I said to her, listen, I'm going to level with you. And I got like really serious. I said, the number one reason why dating is not working these days is because, and I said, and it will continue to not work for you if you do not change this one thing. You have to use your voice. Whether you're on the first date, you're on the second date, or whatever date it is, it doesn't matter. But if you want him to communicate to you in a particular way after you leave a date, then fucking tell him. Because if you don't tell them, they will not do it because they don't know that you're two strangers. Like you said, I'm like so passionate about this because she wanted to just go. She just wanted to like, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, no. This seems overall like a healthy person and a happy person. And there's maybe 2 or 3 red flags. But like and this is like the number one cause, I believe, and I know as a trauma therapist, I know you could go deeper on this too, is that people are afraid to use their voice because they think they're crazy or needy to ask for what they need. But if they don't actually do it, and their nervous system is literally going, oh my God, no, just run, goes. It's like, there's no need to do that. You can actually beat the pattern of like date after date after date if you stop setting this expectation on them and just freaking tell them what you want and ask them. And I like how you said boundary. You ask them, like, can you give this to me? Does this work well for you? It's like, I never knew that before. I never knew that until I did this work that you and I are talking about. So
It's mind-blowing. And to be honest, we're breaking generational patterns here.
oh yeah.
Okay. Like when you think about who our parents and grandparents viewed as like the sexy archetype, it's like the cool, calm, collected, quiet, mysterious woman and man in the corner. Right?
So
It's the one who doesn't use the voice. It's the one that doesn't need you. It's the one that's okay no matter what. It's like bullshit is what it is.
it's so true.
And
Remember the old black and white movies? He'd just be smoking and no, he wouldn't talk and he said one word answers. Oh yeah, I remember this.
so sexy.
So
That's
sexy.
exactly what I want. So we're trying to be this archetype and it's bullshit is what it is. Like that's not how real relationships work. That's on the movie screen. And believe me, those movie stars did not have great relationships. Like
Many of them committed suicide or died of drug overdoses as a result,
no,
whatever,
true.
or whatever addictions. Yeah.
Consistently, right? And so then, and I really this is where it comes from. It's more simple than we think, but it's also really hard to hear. Our parents can be amazing human beings. They can also not be so great. But even if your parents were really great parents, what they're going to reinforce in you this cool, calm, collected stereotype because they want you to be successful, happy, and okay. So when you were 3, 4, 5, 6 years old and you were telling them what you wanted and what you needed, probably in not like the best way, right? I've got a 6-year-old and a 3.5-year-old, and they're quite demanding. The way that the baby boomers in particular, and even, the generation above respond is, hey, like it is not okay to cry when you're sad. It's not okay to tell me that you want this. You need to listen and be respectful. You need, like, this is what I want you to be. And so when we're children, we adapt. Our nervous system adapts quickly in order to stay in the family system because that is what's safest for us in that moment. And so we adapted and we created a fear response, a trauma response to speaking our voice and having needs. So then we get fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Those are the 4 trauma responses when we get called to step into our own truth and our own voice. So if you haven't done the deeper work and someone's asking you to step into your truth and your nervous system is like, no, the way we handle that is we actually like shut everything down. We freeze, right? Or the way we handle this is we run as far away as we possibly can. Then that's going to be your response. Or if you're reactive, right? Like, why aren't you texting me? I thought we had a great date. This is ridiculous. That's also not how we use our voice. That's fight. And then fawn is that people pleasing codependency. Like, hey, I really enjoyed spending time with you. I can't wait to see you on the next date. And I just want you to know that I bought that favorite cologne that you said that you liked. And I also, set up a reservation for, like, over giving, over like, I'm also available these next 3 days if you want to hang out with me sooner.
Oh my God, I used to be
let me
such a
know.
fawn.
Yes. And we're taught that was praised as in childhood. Right? Like I think about my daughter right now, and when she messes up or she like asks for something and I say no, sometimes the next response for her is to bring me a cozy blanket or do I need anything? And like it's so natural for us to shift. And if we don't do the work as we get into adulthood to reset our nervous system, we still operate from that perspective because our nervous system's job is to keep us alive. And it believes that you have to do these behaviors to have a sense of belonging and to be in relationship, which for our nervous system is essential to our survival.
And it makes sense. I mean, I think you're kind of answering the second question, which was like, but then if you're the one who is receiving the ghosting too, that's sort of the, I
Mm.
mean, people, I think, generally tend to fawn. They tend to be like,
Yes.
how can I, what was it about me? How can I be doing something differently? And they tell themselves a story. Oh, I'm too old. I'm too big. I'm too this. I'm too that. Do you know women
Yes.
are one of the most like comparatively between those who identify as men and women, is that like I've been noticing I ask men and women in my group to write down their fears about themselves or doubts or insecurities. This is one of the questions that they answer a couple weeks before they're about to get back out and date. And the list is like so much longer with women. And it's all about body image. It's all
Mhm.
about like, my thighs are too big. I don't know. And personality. I don't know if they're gonna like me. Am I too much? I'm not enough. And from your perspective, that's coming from childhood as well. At least that's been from my perspective. That's coming from childhood as well.
Yeah.
How do we start? How do we begin to heal that? Like, what's like a first step? I know, like obviously the work you do is so powerful with therapy, and I know you have the trauma informed certification for coaches who are interested in learning how to spot trauma and really help them dive deeper into it, correct? Like,
Yeah. I'll be honest. It starts with awareness
hmm,
and knowledge that there are multiple layers in the story that you have. It's not just, I am this way. This is who I am. It's no, girl, no, man. This is how you have developed and how you have evolved and how you have survived.
hmm,
This is not who you are for the rest of your life, right? It's just the understanding and awareness that um, you have multiple layers to you, and understanding how those layers were built. What it does is it stops the shame monster, right? And the shame monster stops growth in its tracks. And
hmm,
that's the part of our brain that says, hey, like, you are bad, you are unworthy, you are not lovable. And I'm saying all these things to you. This is what the voice is. I'm saying all these things to you because if I say it to you first, it's so much less painful than if somebody says it to you. So I'm
and
going to make you feel this way
And that's
first.
probably why we always remember when in kindergarten somebody said this or,
Yes.
made fun of us, that we always let the stuff that somebody negatively said about us stay honest, because and then we just keep
Well,
repeating that.
and I'm going to change that language. We don't let it. It's not a choice. It
Mm,
is our body's response to grab those moments, those I am stories, because it's our brain says, I don't want to ever feel that way again. So I'm going to overreact to this situation. This is not a choice you're making. This is
oh, this
a
is like,
nervous system
okay.
response.
Okay.
I'm going to overreact. So a great example of this is like I'm 7. I'm jumping on my super cool cousin, like poking him and running around with him on the hiking trail. And he turns and he looks at me and he says, "You are so annoying." My
Mm,
little 7-year-old heart was like, "Ugh," you know? And so my brain was like, I don't want to ever feel that again. So it was like, you are annoying. You are too much. So in every situation I entered, I expected that I was too much so that I could adjust and accommodate to the environment around me and fit in.
be
Because that
smaller.
was,
Ah,
yes, it's what was safe as a child. And that's the difference. When we are children, we don't have a choice. Our brain does this because its entire job is to make sure we stay part of the community so that we survive. Our frontal cortex does not fully develop till we're 25. So we are run by our hindbrain and our amygdala for most of the first part of our life. So
mm,
this is where, like, these are not choices that we made, but when we hit 25 and we start, or even our like later 20s, right? Or just our 20s in general, we start to be able to reality check these stories.
mm,
So instead of being like, I am too much, so my hindbrain's like, you're too much, Colleen, turn it down. Like, nobody is gonna want to hang out with you if you come in talking about trauma every day. And my uh higher self, or my true self, is like, hey girl, I know you're scared, little 7-year-old me. It's okay. That's not how we live in the world anymore. Like, I got you, and people love us for who we are. Let's go into this and let's be authentic.
Mm.
All right. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a dialogue with myself rather than attacking the part of me that has that story because she's young. She's not grown up me. She's 7-year-old me. And I'm having a dialogue with her. I'm giving her love. That honestly, when we're taking away time to work on ourselves, we're getting to know the parts of ourselves that are broken and we're reparenting them. We're
Mm.
stepping in and doing the work that wasn't done. And once you start to develop that dialogue and you begin to give them a voice inside of you, you feel so much stronger to then step into your own voice because it's your true self talking. It's not the other parts of you
You're
that
right.
are
And
trying to pipe in.
you can catch yourself in the moment when it's happening. I had
Yeah.
a silly example, but it's off topic of this, but like it was on topic to your video that you posted the other day. I was really authentic and very vulnerable on my Instagram the other day and was just raving about the progress that my clients are seeing in Let Love In. And it was real. I was like kind of choked up. I was kind of like shared some quotes, things like that. And I lost followers. And
Oh,
the 7-year-old in me was like, you're too much.
oof.
You're being salesy. You're doing this, you're doing that. And really, it had nothing to do with me.
No.
So you're right, that higher self stepped in and was like, I'm sorry that they had to go, but they weren't ready to receive the message. Like
Yes.
they weren't ready to let love into their lives.
Yes,
Because
girl.
my people here, we get each other. We want to talk
Yes.
about real shit. We want to talk.
Yes.
I love when you said to me, you're like, I don't go surface level deep. I go deep. Like,
Yes.
sharing those vulnerable moments where I think we've all been, where when somebody does ghost us, we make it mean something about us. I used to have, a relationship with someone who, God, we were so close. And then like they would tell somebody else that they were mad at me, but not approach me on it. That's a form of ghosting. That's a
Yep.
form of avoidance. It's like, just tell me. So I now have a saying, my higher self says, so if you have a problem with me, but you don't tell me that you have a problem with me, we don't have a problem.
Hmm.
We don't, because you
Mm-mm.
didn't come to me and tell me that you had a problem.
Correct.
You have a problem, but we don't have a problem because you never came to me and said that. And
Yep.
I've really tried to say those sort of like empowering or reparenting statements to really truly believe that I'm safe. I've been doing this
Mhm.
inner child work for the last like 2 or 3 years, and it's a game changer.
It is.
I'm
It
so
really is.
fortunate that I had a sponsor in 12 step who got into ACA, adult children work,
Mhm.
5 or 6 years ago, and just like opened my eyes to help me understand like,
Mm.
so why you're in fight or flight all the time, or why you feel you're not good enough, or why you're questioning when you start that new job if they really should pay you that kind of salary, why you change your prices, why you are constantly looking to this guy or that guy or this friend to make you feel good enough, is because that 7-year-old, or for me it's 16 and 14, 6 and 14. 14
Yep.
is when I started high school. And
Mhm.
then 6 is just, that age that you started kindergarten, out of kindergarten. And it was
Yeah.
just like the kids weren't playing with you at school and stuff like that. You just start to like, if you're willing, and I think this is the last thing I wanted to touch on too with you is,
Yeah.
I hear from some people that they're like, it's going to be hard. I don't want to go this deep.
Mhm.
What would you say to them?
It's already hard.
Yeah.
It's already hard. You're already struggling. You're already feeling these feelings. Now you actually get to feel progress, right? Like your body feels this all the time. You're just disassociating from your body, right?
Just,
So you're
yeah,
like
distracting.
distracting, like avoiding, which is why ghosting can feel so familiar, right? It's like you ghost yourself all the time too. Like,
So true.
all right, like, oh, hey there, intuition. Nope. I'm just going to shut all things down and turn on Bridgerton again. Like,
It's so true.
just,
How many times do you hear, I'm sure you hear this with your clients. It's like, they'll start talking their way through something and then they talk themselves out of it. But their intuition kicked in right at the beginning. It's like, no, that studio space wasn't great. No, that guy really is a bad guy. Oh, that girl is not your girl. Like, but we all do it. We all talk ourselves out of it unless we, like you said, I love that you said that, like, it's already hard. You don't need to make it harder.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that when we're also misinformed about this work,
Yeah.
right? We're misinformed. We think that, therapy or self-work involves us like laying on a couch and crying for like 3 months straight. It's like, no, it just involves you
You cry in your
slowing.
bed too. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know, right? It involves you slowing down
Mm.
for like a hot minute and breathing and listening to your body and learning how to have a conversation with yourself instead of having a conversation with other people. And
Yes.
this is it's coming for you. So you either do it now, or you do it in 6 months, or you do it in a year, or you do it in 5 years, or you do it in 10 years, or you do it when you're 75 and you look around you and you say, oh wow, I missed it all. Right? Like this is the work that we have to do today in order to live in our body today.
That last statement made me cry. Like, imagine, and I know a lot of 75-year-olds who I sit in 12-step recovery rooms who say, I wish I learned shit when I was your age because I would have lived a really fulfilling life.
Correct.
You're doing such incredible work. And I think you touched on a couple of important parts that I just want to recap, which is like, if you don't do this kind of work, this inner work of stopping and pausing for a hot minute, like you said, and really stop distracting yourself with booze, drugs, sex, love, gambling, Bridgerton, like social media, all of it, and don't actually sit still long enough to ask yourself, so why am I hurting? Why can't I slow down? It's a question I've asked myself. I still go 90 miles an hour. I'm still in fight or flight every week. I'm just learning how to become more aware of when I'm starting to do it.
Yeah.
It's small stuff, Colleen. It's like heading to Pilates. Class is at 9:30. Girl, it's 15. It's 10 minutes from my house, but I should give myself 15. What do? I leave my house every morning 10 minutes before. And now I'm rushing. And in the fight or flight just takes over. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, slow down.
Yes.
Like, you don't need to go this fast. Because then what do I start doing? Oh, the front girl at the front desk must think I'm this, that, and the other thing. Oh, my instructor is going to think this. And it's just a way to keep pushing it down and down and down and down to, yep, see, you are too much. Yep, you are not good enough. And it's like, that shit is not serving any of us anymore.
No. Nope.
And I think it's really powerful, like you said, like, for those of you who are listening, if Colleen's stories and what's coming up is resonating with you, I ask you to honor that voice and reach out to her, because this work that I have done on myself from my own experience, and it sounds like Colleen is doing with herself and her children, is to really truly love and accept ourselves and understand, where do we hurt? Why do we hurt? And bring up those memories so that we can soothe them. The stuff that I'm still talking to my therapist these days is shit that I have talked about for years, but it's still unresolved because I still feel resentment towards my dad doing X, Y, and Z, or my mom doing whatever it is. But I don't let it take hold of me anymore like I used to. I used to bring it into work and other relationships and stuff, and just kept trying to, like, I love that you said, we're ghosting ourselves. We're avoiding ourselves if we don't continue to do this work. So last question, any final thoughts that you want to share that's just on your heart that you feel like somebody might need to hear?
Yeah. It's never too late. If you are listening and you're 75, take a deep breath. Every single second lived in the present moment is worth it. If you're in a position in your life and you feel like you look back on your life and you say, where's all the time gone? Or what have I done? Or I wish I would have known this. Today is a day you can start knowing this. And this is generational work. So even if you do this change in the later years in your life or midlife, you're affecting everybody underneath you that's watching you do this. So even if you're not a parent, just, you know, children in general in the world need to see more adults who are self-aware and who are living in this space of truth. So this work is essential on multiple layers. So
Well
don't be
said.
discouraged if today is the first day that you hear this.
Yeah, so well said, because if you think about it, I mean, you shared this earlier, that generational trauma.
Mhm.
I have a podcast called our trauma from our mamas, because like we literally learned this stuff from our parents and our caregivers or whoever else. And so if we can be, I just think I said this the other day, I'll end here, is that I said, I was bullied as a kid, by my uncle, one of my uncles, and another family member, my grandfather. And I said, imagine if they had had enough education and enough self-awareness to know the impact that they were making on this little girl's life,
Mm. Yeah.
and how I would have grown up so differently knowing that I was loved. So instead of being like, the boys are playing hockey or whatever out in the street, and I run out to go play at 6 years old with a bunch of high school kids, to instead of being screamed at, but instead saying, come here, grab a stick. Everybody, let's stop for a few minutes. Like even just those little things, but
Mm.
I have to recognize that they didn't know any better then.
Yeah.
And that I get to redo it now. I get to be that girl who stops on the street and says hi to a little girl who's waving at me and who just wants to play for a few minutes, and actually sit down and play for a few minutes and make that conscious choice. So I think it's those examples. I'm so grateful that you came on, and I am so grateful for the work that you're doing, because I am truly passionate about helping people really understand how we keep showing up in the world, in our relationships with ourselves and with other people, and how we really can make a difference. And you are one of those people that's making a difference. So thank you.
Thank you.
I
Thank you for
appreciate
having
that.
me.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
love talking about this. And I think, you're in it. And I love that.
Mm,
You're doing the work, you're spreading the message, like you're in it with people. And that is powerful and so, so needed.
totally. Thank you for that. And I know, can you tell us a little bit about where people can follow you, and talk about your
Yeah.
trauma certification too, if people are interested in going through level 1 and then maybe on to level 2?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at cnelson.therapy. I also have a website, colleennelsontherapy.com. And I do trauma informed training and certification for leaders, entrepreneurs, and coaches. I host them 3 times a year: May, August, and October. If you're interested, I have more information on my website. I also do a 90-day reset, where we dive into this work on a deeper level. And my second round, or third round, I guess, comes out starting in August. So I have a wait list on my website if you're interested in doing some work with me one-on-one and in a group setting. And really, like, don't hesitate ever to just DM me or reach out, because I think sometimes this work elicits a deeper conversation. I can't do therapy via Instagram, but I can definitely direct you towards some really good resources and help you better understand this. So don't hesitate to reach out.
That's beautiful. And I think my internet cut out, which means likely the recording got cut out a little bit too. But just to reiterate what Colleen just said, is she can't give you therapy in the DMs, but you can reach out and she can guide you and direct you towards resources, whether it's with her or other things that might be appropriate. And I'm glad that we have that same mentality. I do the same thing,
Yeah.
because people sometimes just need to use their voices and
Yeah.
feel like somebody understands. So Colleen, thank you so much, and I look
Yeah,
forward to chatting with you soon.
absolutely.